Hey, hi, hello there, my friends. It's the beginning of December. It's cooler weather if you are somewhere other than Florida. I mean, today, which is yesterday for anyone that's listening to this when it comes out, it was actually pretty cold, so that was fun. I busted out a sweater. I felt like very winter-esque. I don't know. We don't get much weather here in Florida, so like it was really 60 degrees, like kind of like in the middle of the day. It got down to like 50 at some points, but it was nice and I just enjoyed that. And I just feel like I need to mention it because it's cooler weather and it's more weather for me. Um, there's that. But yeah, so grab yourself a nice cup of hot chocolate and enjoy this podcast. So today we are covering the overall um, book and the some of the research I did around this book. And we're also going to be talking about the 2018 HBO movie for Fahrenheit 451. So if you haven't watched that movie and you don't want to get any spoilers, don't listen to the second half of the podcast. There's a little break where I come in the middle. So you can just make sure you listen for that so that you know when that's happening. Or you can pause right now, watch the movie, and come back to this episode and enjoy it. One thing I do want to say is I recorded this back in March when I first started making episodes for this. So I have learned a lot since then, which you will probably realize. But I accidentally used the wrong microphone and used my computer's microphone instead of this wonderful microphone that I paid some good money for. And I recorded this whole thing with my computer's microphone. So, therefore, the sound quality is not as great as I would have wished, but it's still like hearable and all that. And I didn't want to eliminate it. So, this was going to be 2 episodes, which is why it's kind of long. But I just decided since I made that error, I will release the whole thing as one, and hopefully you all still enjoy it and still enjoy the content. And I promise I will not make that mistake again. I do double check every time. And now I'm saying that something bad is going to happen, so I'm just going to knock on wood, hope for the best that that doesn't happen again. And yeah, so I hope you all enjoy this episode of Fahrenheit 451. Hello, everybody. I'm joined today with Nova again.
Hello.
So today we're going to be discussing sort of the background of Fahrenheit 451 and why it's so popular today and all those good things. So I did a little bit of Googling, and just an interesting part of the background is he kind of got this, Ray Bradbury kind of got the idea for this book because of the book burnings in Nazi Germany, because the time that he was writing this, it was just post World War II. And so, like, that's kind of the world, if you imagine, that's kind of the world he was in. And, like, I think I read that it took place in when he was 15, and then he wrote this book fully when he was 30. So, like, that's the kind of, like, now you kind of understand more of why the whole bombs and all that kind of stuff happened, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like in the book, I think that it's kind of interesting to look at what his perspective on the world was when he was writing. And he really thought that this might be the way the world turns out, because it's kind of like the introduction of the TV and all that kind of stuff is starting to take over. Also, just like an interesting little background point, the other reason he got the idea to write the book The Pedestrian, which is what he wrote before this, he was walking with a friend when a cop pulled up and asked him what he was doing, and he, like, very snarkily said, putting one foot in front of the other, and the cop literally said and told him to not do it again.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and that's why he wrote The Pedestrian.
The sass.
I know. And then I guess this is happening in LA, which is not a very like pedestrian friendly city already, but like, whoa.
Yeah, really.
I was like, oh, and then you figured out because we talked a little bit last time about how Guy did not seem to be making that much money.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and then you talked about the inflation rate was like 970%. So he made 64 grand a year. And the hospital visit was $534.
Yeah, I remember that. I like had written it all down of what it was. Yeah, I was insane.
Yeah, I put it
Like
right at the top of my notes. I was like, oh,
I
it's like
was
we should talk
shocked
about
to
it.
see it went that far.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
from 1950 to today, that big of a jump. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh." Was not expecting 970% increase.
Yeah. So I was sure that it was going to be more, but like he's making decent money as a firefighter.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So it's like I thought they were going to be like poor, but what did you remember that you calculated out the TV? Because I didn't write it down. Do you know? It's okay
Oh,
if you don't.
yeah, I had done it and I completely forgot to write that part down. It was like the TV was like 2000, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can find that. It would be $21,467.
Oh my gosh, it's absolutely ridiculous.
That's
Like truly.
oh my gosh. I thought like a couple hundred was expensive for a TV and 21,000. Oh my
Uh,
lord.
I know the way they did the TV in the movie was really interesting too.
I I feel like that gave me a better almost understanding of what they had meant by like it being the wall.
Yeah, for sure. Because it
So
really was the wall. It wasn't like a TV on the wall. It was the
it was
wall.
yeah, it was the whole wall. I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Now
Yeah, for
seeing
sure.
that.
Oh, and just a fun little like movie trivia part. All of the books are actually protected by like the covers are protected by copyright. So the art team literally had to make a bunch of covers so that they could burn them.
Oh my god, that's insane.
Yeah, all these authors were like donating books to be burned because they felt like it was such an honor.
That's kind of cool. I like that. Like,
And yeah, because there was a basically they said they were the director is like a super book nerd, and he said that he wanted to include some of his favorites like Crime and Punishment. There's a couple others he listed, but he also knew you needed like the good books and the bad books, and like I think I saw that there was like the memoir of like Adolf Hitler was in there too, but it's like you can't just have that your specific books that you like, and he realized that, so he chose like a wide range of books, like in all sorts of different languages, to be showcased and burned in the movie.
yeah, I did see that. I remember there was one like in like an like Chinese or Japanese or something. I'm not really sure which one
Mm.
it was, but I remember
Yeah,
seeing like the writing, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
yeah. And then we can't talk about a classic without talking about banned books. So, in Santa Rosa County, which is in Florida, a lady tried to get it banned because she said it had profanity, it uses God's name in vain, and she also is salty about the fact that they talk about sex, drugs, suicide, murder, and abortion.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and eighth graders were reading it in 2017. And all I have to say about that is if you think that your kids are not being exposed to that in movies, we gotta
Really
have a
though.
talk. You
Yeah.
know?
Really though. Like it's everywhere.
Yeah. And there's a funny article I read after I read that, and the lady suggested reading a safer book by this guy. And he wrote an article. He goes, "My book was suggested as safer than Fahrenheit 451," and it was a book about like similar topics, but like from an Amish person's perspective. And I'd have to look up what the book was actually called, but he's like, "There's murder in my book. It's a thing that happens," and I was like, "Oh, jeez." So it was kind of funny, just because you have to be exposed and discuss these topics. You can't just like live in a world that's constantly safe and PG.
And I feel like eighth graders are at that point where they can handle these kind of topics.
Yeah, they that's kind of like the like stepping point of, you're getting to be like a young adult at this point. You're starting to go into high school. Like you need to start knowing these harder things that is
Mhm.
going on.
Yeah. The
So,
world isn't just like rainbows and unicorns.
exactly. I thought it was kind of ironic how this is like a whole book about burning books because they're bad, and
Mhm.
this book is getting banned everywhere.
Yeah,
I
that's what
was
I was kind
like,
of thinking too.
like how more perfect can you get with that? That like this whole book about it is the one getting banned and
I
essentially
know,
like burned in a way. And I was just like, yep, that's almost too perfect.
truly. And then, according to Wikipedia, which is not the most reliable source, but I had a hard time finding other sources for it, a school, and I just kind of want this to be true, so I'm going to mention it anyways. A school once gave copies to students with all the obscene words blacked out.
That honestly, I could see a school doing that. So
I could
like
too. I
I feel
just,
like there would be places that would be like, well, we want you to read this, but we needed to censor it, so this is what
I,
you're getting out of it.
you know what I'm kind of imagining? I'm imagining a school where the kids are reading it, but every time a bad word just comes out, the teacher blows an air horn, and then they skip over it and go to the next word.
Oh my god.
And I don't know why that's what I'm imagining is it's like when you read it, but when for me when a word is blacked out in a book, I just imagine that it's like those confidential reports, that they always show when you're watching a movie and it's like Area 51.
Oh yeah, and like pieces of information are like blacked out, but they're like, here's the rest of it.
Yeah.
Kind
I
of,
just
yeah.
kind of like I try and fill in the blanks. So it's like I'm going to make this a lot more offensive than it was when it started. So
Really. It's
and
gonna
then
be something like small, and you're gonna be like, oh my god, worst word ever is inserting right now.
yes. And then another school had a parent trying to ban it because they burned the Bible in the book.
Oh, I saw something about that. I was just like, oh boy.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, do you think that like they're gonna say the Bible's safe when like the whole purpose of burning books is the fact that they're trying to make everyone the same. So obviously, if you're trying to make everyone the same, you can't have religion,
Exactly.
you know. So I just sometimes I look at these and like, did you even read the book?
Really though, like the whole thing is about like that, like being equal. You can't have religion. You can't have like any of that. It's just like people like pick out the topics that they want to see, and they're like, well, they're burning this. It has to, like, we can't look at it. And it's like it's a whole warning. Like read it and understand that it's like a warning against this, not oh my god, they burned the Bible. It's terrible.
Yeah. And then, so when I bought this book, I was told in the actual library that this book was the entire reason we have separate censorship laws. And I found absolutely nothing to support this at all. Not a single thing. Except that according to Barnes and Noble, that the error code 451 on your computer means that it's been censored by the government. So I have no idea if that's true or
Hmm.
anything.
Yeah, that's kind of odd. You think there'd be more about it if it was
Yeah. So
something.
I'm guessing it's one of those like theories, you know?
Yeah, like someone like, oh, this is why. Like they come up with their own and try and like pass it off to everybody, kind of thing. Is that what you mean? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's how I'm gonna think. And then, fun fact, Fabrir, the word I don't know how to pronounce.
yeah.
The professor is that name is the world's oldest pencil manufacturer, and Montag's a paper company. But Ray Bradbury admitted that he had no idea, and it's complete coincidence. He didn't know until after.
That's honestly kind of amazing
Yeah,
that he
I thought that
didn't
was
know
really
that.
cool.
That is like, You wouldn't think that that could even happen.
Yeah, it's like such a stroke of luck.
Really, though. You think, like, if it was, like, these apparently big companies that he would have at least heard of it. Maybe he just heard the name and was like, oh, I like that name.
Yeah, it's one of those what is that called? Where it's like in your subconscious.
Oh, I can't think of it. I know what you mean, but, like...
Yeah, I know we're gonna have everyone in like the Twitter comments and be like, it's this, and I'm like, oh, whoops.
That's usually how it goes. You can't think
Yeah.
of something, and everyone's like, how did you not know it's this? It's like, yep,
Literally.
I should have known that.
I know, I'm like, sorry, my 3 brain cells couldn't figure it out. So then I want to talk about, like, do you think that this book lives up to modern day?
I don't know. Like,
I mean, I can start. We can start there.
sure.
Okay, I'll start and then we'll go off.
Okay.
So I think that honestly, this book, there's parts of it that don't, but that's because it was written in the 50s. But I think it's a very good reflection about how we could go. You know, I think there is something interesting when you look at the fact that there's a lot of newspapers right now doing the clickbait thing where they write these super catchy titles and everyone runs with it. No one reads the articles, nothing. And when you kind of read this book, there is that moment where you're kind of like, oh, is this what the world could be? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's, I don't know. I find it difficult to separate where we are now to where we could be if we continue in this sort of if we continue down this train. I'm like, where are we going to end up? Are we going to be like Fahrenheit 451? Is no one going to read? And it's maybe that's just because like I'm riding the high of Fahrenheit 451, so now I got like these super extreme thoughts. But I don't know, it's kind of interesting that I saw this whole thing about like, oh, Fahrenheit 451 is like what the social media generation needs today. And I'm not saying that. I think there's plenty of people who still enjoy books. And I don't think that like one day we're just suddenly going to be like, oh, no books, everyone the same. Because I think we do really respect individuality still in the world. And I think it's important to continue respecting individuality. But I do find it interesting when you think about how the world's kind of going and how these clickbaity titles and all the newspapers are making money off of people reading, so they make things kind of sound worse than they are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
I feel like I agree, like some aspects it does kind of like translate over into modern day. Books are like definitely making a comeback. So like from things I've read of like, you know, we went to ebooks and that was everyone's like, oh, physical books are going to disappear, but like the last few years physical book sales have been much higher than ebook. So like it's like they're not going away, but I think like it's still like one of those things like we are doing such a push for equality, like could we take it too far?
Yeah.
Like they took it way too far. Like it is definitely something we want to get to where like we're all on the same page. But like there is a taking it too far, like this book of we're gonna burn everything because it makes us unequal, and it's like so I feel like in a way that kind of does translate over because you know we are doing like that kind of thing. My train of thought just kind of gone middle of the sentence.
Yeah, I also think that to me the story itself is not very developed or detailed. While it's like the idea is good, I feel like modern day books are so detailed and the characters are so developed that like that doesn't translate very well. Like everyone's kind of flat. But also he did write this book in 9 days. So
I mean, yeah, anything you write in that little amount of time is not going to end up the greatest thing.
Yeah. See, I guess he was renting a typewriter, and the typewriter was like per half an hour, and it was like 30 cents for half an hour or something like that. So he wrote the entire book in 9 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So it's like, yeah. So from that perspective, I understand that these characters are not going to be super developed, but I think that you kind of have to remember that this is like an older novel because of that, because they don't super develop any of these characters, and I think that's, I don't know, that doesn't translate very well for me because I feel like I don't really know these characters, and I think that the movie does a better job of that.
Yeah, I agree. The movie definitely did a better job with that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Like if he only had it for a certain amount of time to
Yeah,
have to do it. But you're right, it still is like you can't. There's very few you can connect to.
yeah. Like I read a book like that a couple months ago, and like one of the characters that's like close to the main character died, and I didn't care, and I was like, oh, this is not very well written. But like, I'm not saying that Fahrenheit 451 isn't well written. It's like a great idea. It just doesn't have a whole lot of depth.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like it is, the idea is on point. It is a great idea. I think if he had more time, I think he
Mhm.
could have definitely brought it to where it could have been.
Yeah, I think it could have been longer. I think he could have played in the world more. Oh, one interesting thing too, because I remember we both kind of talked about how um, the ending felt like not really an ending.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually kind of wrote a sequel, but it's a video game, and you have to have a very old computer to play it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it goes on, I guess, the journey of Guy working with the resistance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I couldn't really see that much about it, besides that it exists and that there is no further adaptation for it. But Ray Bradbury actually did write the video game storyline, so is his actual work, so it's canon. But I don't see that there's been any sort of adaptation to make it for modern day consoles or anything that like we can realistically play, because I don't even know how to rent or get an old computer that's old enough to be able to play a game like that.
Yeah, you'd almost have to like see if you could find like a gaming store or something that would have something that old.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was like, could you have not written it down for us, please? Like I read books. Sometimes I play video games, but not enough. So
Yeah, you think like someone would have at least tried maybe to put it into words. Or like even if he
yeah,
just like wrote a summary and was like, this is what I thought would happen.
yeah,
And so everyone who has questions.
like us.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, isn't the Halo books, weren't they based off of the video game? I don't think the Halo books came out first.
I
Like,
I'm not sure about that one. I think like Assassin's Creed was that way.
yeah.
But I'm not sure about Halo. Probably. I know there's some series that come out after like television shows as well,
Hmm.
so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. It actually did surprise me. Someone, I was looking at something the other day, and I found this list of like books that were based on movies, and some of them I was like, oh, those didn't come out first?
Oh,
I can't
that's
even remember off the top of my head what they were. But I was like kind of shocked. I was like, whoa, okay.
it's definitely like you're not expecting it because for so long everything has come the book first and the movie is based on the book. So when someone writes
Mhm.
a book based on a movie, it's like, wait, what?
Like those, oh, one of the things is those Disney books that are based on the villains. Have you seen those yet?
I think so. I
Yeah,
think I know what you're talking about.
I keep sharing them on my Instagram stories in the hopes that someone will get the hint because my birthday's coming up. So
I
at the
mean,
time of recording, not at the time of publishing, but I keep hoping. You know, I'm like, maybe one day.
maybe
Why I don't
someone.
buy them for myself, I have no idea. But
You just gotta wait till after the birthday, and then if someone doesn't, then you just go get it for yourself.
Honestly, I just treated myself to like 4 of the Witcher novels. So,
Oh my gosh.
would you recommend this book to a friend?
I think so. I think I probably would be like, hey, by the way, it's kind of feels almost unfinished, but I did like it, and I think you might like it.
Yeah.
I think I would only refer it to like specific people. I don't think I'd do it to everybody because it's definitely not everyone's cup of tea, but I think there are a few people I would be like, hey, you should check this out.
I have a couple of friends who are just starting to like try and get into reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this book it's old enough that it's now in the public domain because I've seen PDFs of it available online now. So I think it is. Or they're illegal. I'm not even sure. This is really bad.
It's,
but
I think because I think it's like 70 years after publication, because then essentially they're thinking the author's going to be dead at that point.
Yeah.
So I think it's like between 60 and 70 years is when it goes into public domain after publication.
Because I have the 60-year anniversary edition, and even that I think was published in 2010. Sticks in my head, but I can actually look. Like I have it right here. Let's see. Well, if it was 1950, let's see if it tells me. It's got to tell me somewhere, right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so the introduction copyright of the 60th anniversary was 2013. So I think it's probably about 70 years now.
Somewhere around there. I think it was like 1952 or 3, if I can remember.
It says copyright 1951, 53, and 67.
Okay.
And then it got renewed in 79, 81, and 95.
Okay.
So now I actually don't know how copyright works. So that might have been an illegal edition, but it was from a university, so I feel like you can't.
Well,
I don't know.
Too late now.
I know.
Sorry to anybody if we took that from.
I know. Well, it's just like the first thing if you search Fahrenheit 451 PDF. And now I'm telling everyone how to do this. Okay, you're all probably millennials listening. You probably know how to do this anyways. But whatever. If you search Fahrenheit 451 PDF, it comes up from a university and it's readily available. But anyways, I recommended it to a friend who's just starting to get into reading, as like they never really read throughout their life. And I was like, listen, I have all these books. And I'm going to do a little self-plug here, but I think that's fine. I wrote a bunch of short stories on my blog, and he like devoured all of them. And he's like, oh, I kind of might like reading. I'm like, okay, here, Fahrenheit 451. It might be something you're interested in. Because I think it does a good job of moving the plot along without getting bogged down by character development, which I appreciate character development, but I feel like someone who's never really read books before and is not super interested, isn't ready for like super character development and character-based writing, and instead kind of just wants a plot that moves quickly. I think this is the perfect book.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. I've always grown up learning like everyone can be a reader, but you just have to find like a book for you. And so like that's always been my thing of there's a book for everyone out there. You just have to find it. And like it will get people into reading. I know so many people who like hated reading in middle school and high school and then picked up a book because they were like, oh, whatever, I might as well do something. And it clicked with them and they're like, whoa, wait, I actually like this. And so then they're like actively searching for books that they're like, okay, like I think I might like this. I'll try this.
I know.
So it's yeah, for like I lost my thought. Go.
Oh, sorry.
No,
it's like for everyone I know that's just starting to get into reading, because basically I've been forcing my friends to start reading. It's just a thing that's happening right now. But every time I'm like, okay, what type of movies do you like? And then I start basing the recommendations off of the movies, because I know if you ask people what genre of books they're interested in, they're not sure because they've never really read a book. But I'm like, if you can tell me what about a movie you enjoy, then I can probably recommend a book to you.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. And like I know people who liked Harry Potter, and they're like, "Oh, there's a book, like I'll try that." And
Mm-hmm.
from there have been like, "Oh, okay. I want to try something similar." And keep going from there. So that's definitely a way to go. Or like if they like are big gamers or something, figure out what type of games they like and recommend
Mm-hmm.
off of that. Like The Witcher is a big game. Could
Yeah,
be like, hey, why don't you go try and like read the book? Like, you know.
yeah. The cover art for the Witcher series too, it looks very video game esque, and it's really pretty. If you haven't seen it yet,
I don't think I've actually seen the covers yet.
I'll send you a picture later,
Okay.
like when we're done. But yeah, they're really pretty.
Oh, I can imagine.
But yeah, so I think I would just recommend this to someone who's not super into reading currently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's probably the best way to go. So, any overall thoughts about the book? I feel like I should have sent you these questions beforehand, but oh well.
It happens. It's been a crazy week, like we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about. So like, it happens. I think I don't know. Like overall, just like my opinion of it, or like just like things that happened. I guess
Let's do overall opinion.
I think I on like Goodreads rated this like a 4 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
I feel like with the lack of character development and the ending feeling very like
Open.
yeah, I think if he had closed up those and like developed the characters more, I think I would have rated it 5 stars because I really enjoyed it. It
Mm-hmm.
was just those two things. I was like, I have more questions than answers at this point. Like, what the
Yeah.
heck? So,
That's how I kind of felt too. I think, this book is really good. It plays on a lot of interesting topics, but I definitely wish there had been more character development. I wish that we did something with what is her name? Mildred, yeah? Think so?
the wife, yeah.
Yeah. I wish we had like actually discovered anything about her that made her a human being, you
Yeah,
know?
because all we knew is that she just liked the TV.
Yeah.
Like, she wanted a fourth one. They had 3, and she wanted another one. And she
Yeah.
called it her family.
Yeah. And it's like, I guess that's supposed to be kind of that everyone's the same and no one really has any sort of character or interest or hobbies. But I still kind of wish she would have done some sort of act of rebellion, or like we could have explored her thought process of why she had to turn her husband in and all that kind of stuff.
I feel like her friends were almost more developed than her.
Yeah.
Like, the one was like, oh, my husband's like going to war. Like, this is my 4th husband. It's only gonna be 48 hours. I guess he'll be back. And then the other one who was like, kids are useless. Like, they had almost more than she did.
Yeah, like they had like thoughts, even if they were like weird and obscure and kind of off kilter, like they still kind of had some sort of emotion.
Mm-hmm. And like, it felt like just they were only there for what, like 10 pages ish.
Yeah.
And to feel like they had more internal, like, I guess, I don't know. I'm not looking for dialogue, but internal dialogue is what came to mind of like what's going on like in their head than Mildred, and like he lived with her.
Yeah, I know. I was felt kind of weird about that one.
So I was like, okay, are we like not supposed to know because he's married to her, so he knows everything. So it's just kind of like, oh yeah, she's in my life, whatever. Like, was it purposeful in that way, or just?
I know. I was like, is this anti-feminist? I can't decide. I feel a little bit like it was, but I'm also like, I mean, it was published in the 50s, but at the same time, I'm like, why do we not know anything about women?
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess Clarice is developed, but Then she immediately gets murdered, but okay.
I know, she had like nothing. It was like, bye-bye. I wonder if it also goes back to he wrote it in 9 days. So like he wasn't thinking about like the wife. Like maybe it was just, oh, the wife needs to turn him in. And so like she was kind of supposed to be like a plot device, and so she didn't get developed. Like I also thought about that of, you know, it could have just been a time thing as well. But it does, she just seemed really weird.
Yeah. All right, well, that is our summary of Fahrenheit 451.
Hi, everyone. So, this was supposed to be 2 episodes, but due to me messing up the microphone and accidentally using the computer microphone instead of my, podcast recording microphone that sounds great and delightful, this was originally supposed to be 2 episodes, and it's no longer going to be 2 episodes because I don't want you all to, have to suffer through this for 2 episodes. Honestly, it's just because I messed up, and I just am going to reward you for listening to it by just giving you the whole thing. So, therefore, this is just going to go straight from the overall impressions into the movie. So, that's what's happening now.
Okay, so hello everyone. We are going to talk about the Fahrenheit 451 movie today. I have a lot of thoughts. So, to start off with, also, I'm joined today by Nova.
Hi, again.
I know, I just got so into the movie that I'm like, I can't even introduce my guest.
You're just prepared and ready to go.
I know, I'm like, all right, straight to the point. They'll figure out who you are.
10 points for whoever guesses correctly.
I know. I'm like, Gryffindor. Okay, so the intro, it really seems like they use the same burning animation over and over again. Did you notice that?
Yeah. It was like, okay, now you just look like a fake fire.
I know, I was like, what's your budget? What did you spend your budget on? Was it buying all the books to burn? Because, we could have just used replays of that instead of the same burning animation over and over again.
Really, though. Like, there are ways to make fire look not like the same animation, and that was not how you do it.
And you're telling me HBO, who can CGI dragons, could not afford to get a secondary burning animation?
They spent all their budget apparently on Game of Thrones.
I don't even think, because this came out in 2011, I believe, or somewhere around there. So I don't even know if Game of Thrones started. I don't know when Game of Thrones started, actually.
The movie came out in 2018.
Yeah. Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. So yeah, they did waste the entire budget on Game of Thrones. So they're like, there's nothing left.
All their money there. And we're like, well, we have to keep producing stuff, but we don't have the money to do this. So we're going to try.
It was like Game of Thrones, Westworld, and then they look at Fahrenheit 451 and they're like, not for you.
Basically.
Also, so, the intro aside, as soon as it starts, he's putting eye drops in, and I'm like, what is this thing with the eye drops?
Yeah, I was like, what is going on?
I know, I was like, does everyone have dry eye from looking at screens all the time?
I mean, valid.
Probably. Yeah. There's blue light glasses for a reason, friends.
Really, though? Oh my gosh.
Also, I do think it's interesting that they changed everyone playing poker to suddenly the firefighters are in a fight club. I'm like, weren't they playing poker in the book all the time and just playing cards, and now suddenly they're fighting?
Yeah, it was the cards, and then they would do the dog fight with the mechanical hound out back. They'd give it stuff, they throw stuff in with it, and watch it them perish essentially, so they could see what the hound would do.
I forgot that was part of it. The mechanical hound not being in the book, the movie, I mean, kind of made me upset.
I was so looking forward to that, because he was such a big part. I call it
Yeah.
he like it. And then it was just gone. I was like, what?
That and the fact at the end that they had an actual like dog. I was like, wait, there's not supposed to be animals in this world, so not sure what that's about.
Yeah. I was like, okay, they can have a real dog, but they can't have their mechanical death pupper that
I
was in
know.
the book.
One good boy.
So I was like, okay, interesting.
Yeah. The other weird thing was that they summarized the books on the internet, which they called the Nine. And I'm like, this wasn't even an option before. You know, there was no summary of books. They basically pretended like books didn't even exist.
Yeah, they definitely modernized the movie for like what's going on now. I
Yeah.
think because like the whole like social media thing, like as they were doing the news stream, you could see like the things pop up like the heart Montag and like plus 100 or whatever. Like that
Yeah.
is very like one of like the live things like Facebook or Instagram live
Hmm.
nowadays. I was
Yeah.
like, so they definitely took it and like moved it into now.
Yeah. I definitely saw that too. I think they did a good job of modernizing the novel, but there were some things about it that I was kind of confused about. So one of the things that they talk about is the first house they're burning. They're trying to upload books to the internet and basically make ebooks.
Yeah.
And then I was confused about the eels and natives. And my whole issue with the eels is that you're, instead of like, I guess, putting these people in prison for life, you're basically allowing them to take away the structure that you've created, you know, because these people aren't going to stop wanting books to be returned. Like they're part of a rebellion. So it's like they're basically allowing the rebellion to exist because all they do is take away their fingerprints, you know?
Yeah, they like it was I thought it was weird because like yeah, they can't do a whole lot anymore because like at one point it showed guy going through like a train station and he had to use his fingerprint to get
Mm-hmm.
in. So I'm like they're limiting what you can do, but it's like you can still do things.
Yeah. Like,
So like what was the point?
yeah. I don't know. Because it's like in the book, I think everyone goes to an insane asylum, you know,
Yeah,
or
they were like sent
dies.
away, yeah.
But it's like all these people still exist in the culture. So it's like they're still going to rebel, you know? For, I don't know. Because there's no reform system, you know? Like you can't really
Yeah.
brainwash people to not want books anymore. So I don't know. It was weird. I thought that was one thing that was a plot device I didn't really understand.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Like I got like I thought it was I like the use of like the eels because they at one point were like they're slippery as an eel or whatever, like to go
Hmm.
into hiding. And I was like, okay, I kind of like that
Yeah.
usage, but it
Hmm.
didn't. Yeah, it didn't make sense. Of like you think they would throw him in jail or like in the book the insane asylum
Yeah.
because like in the scene with all the kids, they were like books are bad, and these kids are like cheering them on when they burn the fake book.
Yeah.
So
It
it's like
felt like
there's
the
gotta be something going like that they do to these eels. Like what?
yeah. I know because then there isn't really any repercussions besides making your life a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But the thing that was weird to me is them brainwashing the children was like very reminiscent of like um, the Nazi. What is that? The kids that were the informants. Do you remember what that was called?
No, I don't remember that. Like I don't remember what that was called now.
Oh yeah, it was like the Nazi kids who were basically. It's kind of like the same thing with the in Harry Potter, the High Inquisitor Squad,
Oh,
where
okay.
yeah, where they were like um basically it was all these kids that were supposed to keep like a watchful eye and make sure that their neighbors weren't doing anything wrong or their parents weren't doing anything wrong, you know? And it turned these kids into like little, you know, tattletales and
Yeah.
would get their parents and like their friends and adults in jail or killed, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very reminiscent of that when I was watching that. That's what I kind of felt like was happening.
I thought it was interesting how they used the see something, say something, because that's
Yeah.
been a big, like, anti bullying campaign right
Mm-hmm.
now. And I was like, okay, I like how they, like, twisted that.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, we're trying to stop it using this campaign, and they're taking it to like the next level. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that is kind of clever.
Yeah, there was a lot more correlations to like modern day that I think they did very well.
Definitely. They definitely hit that, like, pretty well.
Yeah. And the one thing that I thought was interesting was Clarice being their intel for the entire um movie, you know, because in the book she was just like some neighbor kid who
Yeah.
liked books. And now she's like intel and trying to make sure that people she doesn't know get burned while still trying to reduce her sentence. And I'm like, did they give them their fingerprints back? Is that how that works?
It sounded like it when she said that. She was like, you told me I had this much left before you removed me from being an eel.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I was like, wait, they can take it back? Like,
Yeah, that's
do they
weird.
reprint their fingerprints?
Yeah, I'm like, how does that work? Does everyone get their fingerprints stored and then they're like, ah, you can have yours back?
It was weird. I also wondered, like, if that community she was in was eels, because everyone
Mm-hmm.
else was in these nice fancy houses, and then she's in like this, like, really
Oops.
poverty-ish building.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, is this, like, what is this? Is this where they go? Is this where they live? They can't live a good life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering too.
Because,
But I
like,
guess,
the whole thing is about equality. I'm like, wouldn't you all be in, like, the same type of house then?
yeah, why were these even built? Like,
Yeah.
another thing I thought was kind of interesting is I did a little bit of research while I was looking at the movie, and it turns out that when Ray Bradbury was originally looking at adapting this movie, he had like assisted with I don't know if it was a play or if it was an earlier movie, but he had let Clarice stay in throughout the movie. So I think he kind of regretted killing her in the novel a little bit.
I think so. Like, she didn't even get, like, a good death. Like, she was just
Yeah.
dead. Like, she got
Yeah,
hit by
she's
a
just like,
car.
bye. It was
It
like
was like,
all off screen.
it was like, oh, come on. Like, if you're gonna kill her, like, have her being killed for reading or something. Like,
Yeah.
don't just hit her with a car.
I
And we
know.
find out, like, through the wife is like, oh, by the way, I think she
Yeah.
died.
There was not as much, there was like no vehicular manslaughter in this movie either.
There was, like, no vehicles at all besides the fire trucks. There were
Yeah.
very few. Like, the scenes where the fire trucks were going down the road, it was just them.
Yeah. I know. I was like, huh. I was like, where's the vehicular manslaughter? Like, I was promised murder.
Really?
Also, I had to make a note that they pronounced his name Baby instead of like Betty, as it was in my head. Did you
Yeah.
notice that?
Yeah. I was
So
like,
I was like,
okay.
yeah, I don't know if that's canon and how that's actually supposed to be pronounced, or if that's like a, you know, when Jim Dale first started reading the books before the movies came out, and he pronounced it Voldemort.
Oh, yeah. Or, like,
So I'm like,
Hermione. Everyone,
yeah,
like,
Hermione.
yeah.
So I'm like, is this canon? Like, should I say Baby or should I say Betty?
Yeah, I was like, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and then the wife's not even in this movie at all. Mildred's completely gone.
I know, it's just, like, the love interest is Clarice, which I kind of
Mm-hmm.
liked because it gave her more of, like,
Purpose.
yeah. I think I like that a lot better than her just being, like, the neighbor kid. Because
Yeah,
I feel like the wife I had mentioned, like, in the other one, that she was almost like a plot device and wasn't really
mm-hmm.
there. So I liked the use of Clarice as, like, actually trying to help him figure out what he's thinking and the love interest. And I thought that was a great way to do it.
Yeah, and I like that they actually like aged her up well,
Yeah.
because she was like a teenager and I think he was supposed to be like 30,
Yep.
and then they made them the same age in the actual movie, which I think was a better plan.
Oh, definitely.
Because it did seem like there was a little bit of like love in the book, and I was kind of uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, they were kind of hinting like a weird kind of romantic thing. And it was like,
Yeah.
okay.
And I was like, she's too young. That's gross. And then in the movie, they're trying to get rid of all the old people so that true history is gone. And he literally says true history. And I was like, oh, so you all know. And you're just trying to kill off everybody that actually remembers.
Yeah, I like how even like he asked the, what is it, like the Yuxi? I don't even know what it, like, how to pronounce that.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was like, didn't firemen used to put out fires? And like, it's like, that's a classic lie.
They said it's eel propaganda.
Yeah. And so like it was so weird because like then like with the whole getting rid of the old people, it's like, how long ago did this start it? Like,
I know, it seems like it only happened like a generation ago that they suddenly were like, oh, everyone's going to be the same. Whereas in the book, it seems like it had been happening for a while.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, because Fabier, however you say his name, the professor was a professor. So this all actually in the book too was only about a generation ago that this started happening.
Yeah. So they brainwashed them pretty quickly.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I thought because the professor in the book had said something about how his classes used to be full and then over the years they like dwindled to, no one showing up.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I did too until I was kind of thinking about it. But I guess, this all happens very, very quickly in the book and in the movie.
Yeah, it definitely seems to, because like there's no way they can talk about like, oh, the old people know without it being this quick of like a switch.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that was kind of interesting is like Beatty is writing and then he lights it on fire.
Yeah, that kind of, I was wondering like, because we talked about which side was he on, because he was very back and forth. Yeah. I was like, is he part of this whole like he doesn't want to see books go, and so that's why he's writing things down? And then it was like weird things that he was writing down.
Yeah,
I was like, okay,
to figure out if it was poetry or not, or if it was just like verses or what it was.
Because some of them seemed like quotes from things, and then at one point he was writing about Montag.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, what is going on inside your head there, buddy? Like, what are you thinking of? Why are you writing this? And like, he'd put the lamp over the I'll call it the like, yeah. And like, even after he told it to go dark, he put the lamp over it. So like, when Montag started like reading in the bathroom, I was like, oh my god, they're gonna know.
Yeah.
Because it's still seeing everything.
So I'm like, this is why he gets in trouble, because they don't have the wife to report it anymore. So they had to like have something that's going to report it. And I guess it's basically like in-home Alexa.
Yeah, that just made me think of like, people are having a lot of issues with those nowadays. People are hacking them and like getting information about you and stuff and like using it against you. I was like, that just made me think of that. I was like, wow, that also connects in that way. Of like, look at this thing like in our house.
I know, I literally have one in my bedroom and it just lit up as I said that. And me and my boyfriend, whenever one of us has to set one and we're on the phone, we'll say like, she who must not be named, so that she doesn't like ring up,
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of wild. I do think that that's interesting because they took out Mildred and they had to make that still word. I think it's interesting to have something that is supposed to only be able to hear but still sees.
Yeah, like that's, I don't know, that just like was such a creepy thing.
It was really real and it hit too hard and I was like, what?
But I liked how they did that for like the modern, that's what we have
Mhm.
now. We have those.
Yeah. Another thing I thought was pretty interesting too is that they didn't really have a whole lot of physical books. The people who had books mostly had like tapes and such that they were uploading to the internet or trying to.
Yeah.
Like there's a few people who did have actual physical books, but most of the people who are part of the rebellion only had like tapes.
Yeah, I noticed that. And like Clarice was making like the tape players.
Hmm.
I thought that was interesting, like a thing for her as well.
Yeah. And then one thing that I thought was really weird too is that they call books graffiti.
Yeah.
And then when they're raiding that house, instead of like um instead of Montag taking the book himself, Beatty was like telling him to read the book,
Yeah, I
you
thought
know?
that was interesting.
Yeah. So I'm like, I think he was kind of trying to convert him at that point a little bit, even though he's like ashamed that he still writes and reads.
Yeah, because he was very like I questioned him the whole time because he is so
Hmm.
back and forth all the time.
Yeah,
And like at
for
that moment
sure.
it was kind of he was like, "Do it. Do it."
Read a
And I was
book.
like, "Okay, is he hinting that he wants him to do this? Like
Yeah,
be part of it?" So, it was very like interesting to see that dynamic in that way.
yeah, for sure. And then the other thing I thought was weird that when they raided that lady's house that had like a ton of books, she taped books to her like they were bombs.
I laughed at that. That was hilarious. I
I was
loved
like,
that part.
what?
That was amazing. I was like, oh
I,
my god, she's going all in.
I know. I was like, okay, like what? I have no idea why that's a thing that's happening right now.
I know,
That
it
was
was
so
just.
weird to me.
It was something else.
Also, they did a terrible voiceover to hide the code word.
I know, like, people can see that, guys. Like, they know that's not what they're saying.
I know. They didn't even try either.
It was like, okay, clearly we know that these people are that brainwashed because you can see it clear as day that that is not what is being said.
Yeah. And I'm like, don't they live stream all of this?
Yeah, they
So I'm
do.
like, how did they correct this after? Because tens of thousands of people probably already saw it.
Yeah, for it's like it's almost hard to change it at that point. Like good luck trying to make that any different.
Hmm.
People
For
know
sure.
it and they're going to go with it.
Yeah. And then the first time knew something was wrong was when Montag put the sensor in the dark and it still responded to him.
Mhm.
I was like, ooh, no. Like I knew he probably when I saw Betty put the light over, I knew that like Montag's gonna have an issue with this. But as soon as it started responding, he goes, I am in the dark, it's just me and you now. I was like, nope, don't trust it. Don't trust it.
I know. I was like you're so screwed. Like it
Yeah.
was like 2 times 2 isn't 5. And he
Yeah.
like
I was
looked
like,
up like I was like, "Yep, have fun with that."
I know, I'm like, you have ruined it. Also, one of my big notes was there's a lot less murder in this movie,
Yep.
which we kind of already talked about, but it just is wild to me. I'm like, that was a big part of the plot was that kids were like killing people.
Yeah. It seemed very odd that that wasn't as big of a thing.
Yeah. And then they kind of talked about how they're getting rid of different languages, which I know there's been a couple of years ago, I remember there being like a sort of push for a universal language. Do you
Yep.
remember that?
I
And
kind of do,
so,
yeah.
yeah, so I kind of was like, oh, yikes. Like, that's because I kind of remember them saying that like English should be the universal language. And now I'm kind of thinking like, if we did go down that road, like as a like population, like as a world, how far would we take that to make things universal? Like, it could get really close to Fahrenheit 451, and I don't like it.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think I know like I think they're kind of doing something like that for like at least officials.
Yeah.
Like going to like the United Nations, since most everyone speaks English in some sense anyway, to make it for that, but like not requiring everybody everywhere to do it, which I think that makes sense because, you know, they have to go to all these meetings, and if you guys can't understand each other, then like
It
how
takes longer.
yeah. So like,
I know, I'm like,
that makes sense to me. Like that
yeah.
seems fine. But it's like to make everybody do it is kind of like
I do think it's kind of wild that they're making English the universal language, because English is one of those languages that's very hard to learn if you know another language, because we don't have any rules. You know, whereas like languages have rules for how sentence structures should be. Like, this is how you change if it's a female that you're talking to, a male you're talking to, or, you know, whatever. They have certain rules. But it's like English, it's like, whatever goes. Like, we have I before E, except in most cases.
Yeah, it's like I before E, except after C, and in cases like neighbor and way, and then you think of like weird and like all these other words. Like, have you seen that mug? It's like I before E, except after C, and this is weird, and then it like lists all these
like, other ones
words.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep.
I'm just like, I'm not a proponent. I don't think English should be the number one language. I think it's kind of difficult for anyone to learn, to be honest. Like, unless you already know English, it's really hard to actually like learn English, because it's just, we have no rules.
We pretend like we have rules.
Yeah. Literally.
Doesn't actually get followed, but you know.
Yeah. I'm just like, is America so selfish that we just continually like, oh, our language is the best, even though it makes no sense ever?
I think it's also because like there are other countries that's the main language. Like the UK and Australia are both English countries.
Yeah, and I guess they're pretty big countries as in that too. You know, like population wise, they are really big. So I don't know. I guess we're just like overpowering the rest of the world, but I really feel like it should not be English. That's just a personal thing though, but whatever, it's not that deep. One big note is that they made Clarice older, which is kind of what we talked about earlier, and that he doesn't have a wife, so that's good, you know, there's less weirdness about her being a love interest.
Yep.
And then Clarice mentions that the drops are apparently making them forget and like have bad memory. But I'm like, why is everyone taking them? Like, what's the cause that makes them think that they need to take them every day?
Yeah, like, is it part of the brainwashing of like they came out with at first like, oh, like if you don't take these drops, like you're gonna get sick or something.
Yeah.
And then just kind of went from there. Like, could that have been kind of the start? And then so people are like, oh, I have to use my drops. And then at that point, everyone's kind of already just using them, and it's normal.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. And then apparently they're in Ohio, and I don't think they ever actually mentioned where they were in the book.
No, they mentioned some close by things, like I think it was like Detroit and St. Louis. So like I knew it was in like that area.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, they didn't really have a location.
Yeah, but hard and fast in the movie, they're in Ohio.
Yeah.
Also, they show like blind people reading Braille. And that kind of hurt me, because I was like, yeah, in this world where everything's kind of visual and TVs and all this stuff, like they don't really make accommodations for anyone that has any sort of disabilities.
Yeah, so much for being equal.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, if anyone was like blind, you know, they can hear it, but
I can't see it.
If you're deaf, there wasn't any captions on anything.
Yeah, like you saw like the live stream things, but
yeah,
it's like those were completely forgotten about.
Yeah, so I'm just like, how does anybody with a disability exist in their world? Or are they like auto eels?
Maybe they are.
It's terrible. It's so awful.
Because I know in, like, other dystopian things, like, if you are, like, have a deformity or something, you're outcasted, so, like, they get rid of that gene.
Yeah.
And so, like, it doesn't make everybody equal because now you just have a whole, like, chunk of the population you're just like, bye.
Yeah, it's so bad. So then, they basically start raiding all these eel camps, and Montag helps Clarice escape. And again, it's still problematic that they didn't, like, put them in an asylum or whatever. Like, they didn't expect them to rebel again.
Mm-hmm.
They basically made a system where everyone that likes books becomes poor and all live together. And they're like, this isn't going to do anything.
And that seems very weird because, like, we want to get rid of this problem, but we're going to completely just ignore the fact that they're all together.
Yeah, literally.
Like, okay.
So,
good job getting rid of it.
Yeah. Beatty caught Montag lying, and Montag keeps getting flashbacks to his dad, who I guess read books. But his dad says he's, like, an amazing firefighter, but he's still, like, reading books. I don't really know.
Yeah, that was kind of odd, I thought. But, like, I think it kind of was interesting of, like, Beatty was there.
Mm-hmm.
At the very end, we saw that he was there. So, like, was it he knew this kid was going to be like his dad, so he wanted him to grow up a different way? Or, like, what? Like, it was just very odd, I guess, of how it all happened.
Yeah. So Montag attempts to quit, and Beatty's like, nope, won't allow him to quit. So I'm like, because now you basically force firemen to stay in their position, even if they are not, like, believing in the mission at all.
Yeah, I was like, this is gonna end up badly for everybody because, like, can they not just, like, go get a different job, or is it kind of like a
signed at birth situation?
Yeah,
that's what I was wondering too.
Because it did seem very odd that, he wasn't allowed to leave.
Yeah. So, the book nerds take Guy to a compound, and there's an entire underground network of book nerds, which I love. And I guess they're using animals to transmit books.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting how they put it in the DNA.
Yeah.
And so,
like, how does that work?
Like, all of the history is just in the DNA. I was kind of upset with the ending because of that. Because, like, he releases the bird, but it just goes into a flock of birds.
Yeah, it does have, like, the tracker on it, but I'm like, how am I gonna get this bird, like, with the tracker?
I was like, come on, like, I felt like it was the book all over again of the ending just, like, didn't happen.
Do anything? Yeah.
Because, like, we could have seen someone, like, even just grabbing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it went over, like, this farm, and I was like, oh, perfect, we're getting an ending.
Yeah.
And then it's up in the air with all these birds, and I was like...
Seriously? Like...
Okay, that's where this is ending?
Honestly.
Like, we don't even get an ending again? Come on, guys.
No. I'm so mad about it.
Like, I know they said, like, it could breed. Like, once they were gonna take it out and put it in other animals and just keep breeding it. Yeah. So, like, obviously it can breed into other birds, but, like, if you can't find where it went, it's useless.
Yeah, I'm like, are you just gonna keep testing birds, hoping that, like, this bird is mating with other birds?
Really, though, like, it made no sense.
Yeah. And also, like, if it's a caged bird, I was surprised it survived in the wild enough to join a flock.
Really? I wonder if, like, maybe they just took it out of the air or something?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it was the kid's pet, so, like, maybe they, like, had just picked it up somewhere?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because there weren't really any pets, so, like...
Yeah.
Where would they have gone and gotten it?
Yeah.
So...
So then they, while he's trying to get the transmitter for the bird, um, basically Beatty says that he knows that he read a book because he asked him if 2 + 2 = 5, and Guy was like, "Uh-oh." And they said that they got a special tip about Montag's house. So it looked like someone had planted the books in his house, though.
Yeah, that was definitely, they planted that. I
Yeah,
was
because it
like,
was like sitting in the
wow.
middle of the living room. So I'm like, how did they break into this guy's house and just plant the books in the living room?
That was just so infuriating because it was like, then it was kind of clear what side B was on, because it's like, you literally set this up.
Yeah, honestly.
And like, he's standing there and he's like, that's not mine.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, everyone on like the 9 is calling him a traitor.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't even know what to do at this point.
Yeah. And then they showed someone burn alive on the TV, but he didn't kill Beatty, which he did in the books.
I was so mad about that.
And then the firemen somehow found Omnis before they did.
I know, like, I don't understand how they figured out that's where they were going, because they said it was off grid.
I mean, I guess the tracker, but how would you know which one was taken? Or
And
that one
like,
was actually taken?
they got there before them, so it's like, how do you even know where they're going?
Yeah. How many firemen locations are there that they can get there first?
Really? Like, they'd have to know beforehand where they were going and have like that good GPS to get them there first.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how did they even know?
Yeah.
That was my big question of like, you guys had no idea where this was, otherwise you would have gotten
Mm-hmm.
it months ago.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden
And
you do.
yeah, I know. I was kind of shook about that myself too. And then in this one, Beatty actually kills Montag, and I was like, seriously, I was not happy about
Yeah,
that.
no. I liked it so much better when Montag was the one that killed Beatty.
Yeah, me
Like,
too.
it made more sense.
It really did. It didn't make any sense for Beatty to kill Montag.
And like, he almost did it like, he was like angry, and it's like, okay, why are you that angry that a bird got away? I'm like, there's
Yeah.
something else going on here that we just don't know about.
Yeah, honestly. It was wild. But yeah, I think the movie definitely did a really good job about bringing this into the modern day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Besides the end, I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Yeah. So that was the movie. Any other thoughts?
I don't think so. I think for the most part, it was really good. I mean, I wish they had followed some other things more, like the mechanical hound. I feel was such a big part, and they didn't have it.
Yeah.
But I feel like some aspects were better, like the character development with like Clarice especially, but just in general, like the characters felt more real than the book. So overall, I thought it was like a really great movie.
For sure. Yeah, I really liked it too. I basically had the same thoughts. I thought it did really well. I think it brought it even more into the modern day. Yeah. And I think it did a really good job at that.
Oh, definitely.
To be honest. And I do think that like making Clarice more of a love interest was a better idea than like aging her up.
I think so too. Yeah.
Still don't really love the fact that like the eels are allowed to be an underground organization, but that's just me.
It's like they haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me, Nova. Where can all the people find you?
They can find me pretty much anywhere at Novosaurus Rex with 2 X's. And pretty much anything that doesn't have that name is linked to one of those. So it's pretty easy to find me.
And I'll link you down below so that everyone can just click them.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thanks for joining me, and I will catch you all later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank Thank you all so much for joining me on this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. I really love having you all here, and I love making these episodes. And I'm sorry that this one was not as good of audio quality, but I promise that I am working towards constantly improving, and hopefully that won't happen again. But I hope you all still enjoyed it and that it wasn't that bad. Um, so, some quick little announcements. If you haven't joined our Barely Book Club yet, we're hoping to start picking a new book for December here shortly. So, please be sure to join that and enjoy it and come talk about books with us. We also have a book chat. That's a lot of fun. It's also on Discord. It's right now we're talking about From Blood and Ash and Throne of Glass and A Court of Mist and Fury. And there's a Cruel Prince. Yeah, Cruel Prince chat in there that I do not pay attention to because I have not read it yet, and I'm sorry. But if you have read that series, you can talk to some great people in that as well. So that's fun. And you can find those at barelybookish.com/connect. The link to that's also in the notes. And it's a lot of fun. I'm also pretty much everywhere if you want to connect with me online. It's at Barely Bookish at basically everything. So, and that's also, you can find those on barelybookish.com/connect as well. The next book that we're going to be talking about is Little Women. A lot of people say that they love this for winter time, and so I was like, yeah, we'll do that. Sounds good. So be sure if you don't want to get any spoilers, you read that. Just read at least like the first half for next time if you aren't able to read the whole thing, and then you won't get any spoilers. Or watch the movie. I don't judge you. Do what you will. Do what you want. If you just want to watch the movie, go for it. Do it. I don't care. Do whatever makes you happy. If you want to just listen and let me talk about it, do that too. Do whatever you want to do. It's chill, no judgment here. Judgment-free zone. So yeah, that's about all I have. My logo was designed by my little sister Sarah. It's beautiful. I'm obsessed with it. She is very talented. And our theme song is called Video Game Blockbuster by Raphael Crux on freepd.com. And that's all I have for you all. I will catch you all in the next one. Bye!